Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Q&A edition of Optimal Relationships Daily, episode 1133. I am your host and narrator, Greg Audino, and it's time for my favorite day of the week, Q&A Day. And that is because I like answering questions. It is definitely not because I have anything else going on my Saturday, so don't make that mistake. Now, today, I've got an awesome question from one of your fellow listeners who, in tending to the relationship she has with herself, is wondering why new habits are so lost on her, why she can't develop new habits and stick to them. She gives us a great explanation and example in her question, and I think it's a great one for us to be looking at, as to me it hits a lot of topics. So let's hear the question, try to help out, and optimize your life. I appreciate that you remind us not to try everything at once, but I still struggle with finding things that work for me and sticking with them long term. When I turn my attention elsewhere, I lose whatever I had been focusing on prior. I want to establish habits and routines for cleaning, health, mental health, exercise, and personal and professional growth. But as soon as I make progress on one thing, I forget something else. Example, I had gotten good at wiping my bathroom counters every day for about a month. But as soon as I added taking a walk every morning, I totally forgot to wipe my bathroom counters. Okay, here's a good question. Thanks for sending this in, Asker, and thanks for all your effort to improve yourself. It doesn't go unnoticed by me, and I'm sure it doesn't go unnoticed by your loved ones and your acquaintances. I think this is a really important question to look at. So there are two answers I want to give you, and I'll get the simple, basic one out of the way first. So practically speaking, the first thing anyone who's really into habit formation is going to tell you is to give habit stacking a go. Now, habit stacking is when you perform a new habit directly before or after you perform a habit that's already ingrained. Assuming you brush your teeth every morning, this would mean having your sneakers by the sink, putting them on as soon as you're done brushing, and waltzing right out the door for a morning walk right after you finish. They happen to be back-to-back habits, the time is specific, the environment is set with your toothbrush and sneakers right next to one another, it's easy. Every trigger you could possibly ask for is there. And if you have it written down somewhere and you can give yourself the reward of checking it off the list when you get back from the walk, even better. So that's the easy answer. And I don't want to brush it off because habit research is very conclusive these days, which is great. Everyone who does it comes up with the same answers, and those quick ideas I just rattled off are actually very effective. But they also aren't hard to find. What is hard to find, however, and what's worth finding, is how you personally relate to your current habits and the formation or attempted formation of any new habits. So with that being said, I think the best thing you can do for yourself, regardless of if the habit stacking technique helps, is to consider why it is that you're trying to create all these new habits. Really ask yourself if there's someone who has or is currently telling you to do them, if everyone in your circle seems to have these habits down, or maybe you're just curious about them because you hear them a lot and all the self-development content you might come across. Whatever. There are a lot of potential conclusions and therefore questions you could be asking. And sometimes we don't need to or have to have big thought out reasons for doing something new, especially if it's just wiping bathroom counters. So if there's no strong reason you can come up with, that's okay. But what I want you to realize is that we usually don't forget about the things that really matter to us. And when we do, it's only because we're spreading ourselves too thin. So with that being said, I have a hunch that you either don't care as much about these habits as you think you do or want to, or you just have way too many other things demanding your time and attention. I'll also say that I'm especially convinced of either of these two scenarios being the case, since you cited 6 different parts of life that you're trying to create new habits in. Okay, 6 is a lot. And even if you're only taking 1 or 2 habits on at a time, it tells me that your mind is divided, even if you haven't yet created action on all the new tasks you want to undertake. You mentioned that you appreciate how we at the OLD Network remind everyone not to do everything at once. I appreciate your appreciation, and I appreciate you. But doing everything at once is not just about habits. It's about all of life. habits coexist with everything else you have going on. Trying to work on 2 habits may not sound like a lot, but if everything else in your life is full to the brim, like long work hours, a demanding family life, a strong social life, time to sleep 8 hours a night and exercise, etc., then creating time and energy for 2 new changes is tough. 1 new change would be difficult. And I think that's where maybe you, and definitely many of us, need to start getting realistic about our bandwidths and forgiving ourselves for only having so much in the tank. When you consider what's really important to you, what you really want to do, and what you're really trying to achieve from all these habits, you have to remember that you still just have 24 hours in a day and need to spend a portion of it relaxing, both physically and mentally. There is no shame, and I'm speaking to all of you listening, there is no shame in not being able to adopt shiny new habits at the drop of a hat. Yeah, it's talked about a lot here on ORD and across our network and anywhere else that's in the realm of personal development. But the fact remains that we have busy lives and we have other important stuff on our plates. You're allowed to be too busy sometimes. It's okay if you can't take on a new habit right now. You'll do it at some point if it eventually proves itself to be a high priority. We can't get down on ourselves for not being able to apply everything we learn. Or in my case, everything we teach. You think I don't love what I do in part because I need to be reminded of this stuff as well? Of course I do. So what's most important is not balancing 2 new habits at once. Before you get to those cool additions, make sure you're first devoting the most attention to the most important stuff. If you do find that you're overexerting yourself elsewhere, then I might recommend shifting your focus to time management before anything. And if you can only handle 1 more habit at a time for the time being, then make it the most fulfilling one. There are many healthy practices we can take when navigating our relationships. One which includes speaking to a professional therapist should you need one. BetterHelp helps connect you and your personal licensed professional therapist online, where you can schedule your weekly video or phone sessions at your own convenience. And with their counselors specializing in stress, family conflicts, LGBT matters, and more, they make it easy for you to change your counselors whenever needed. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they're recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. No more sitting uncomfortably in a waiting room. Gain the flexibility of messaging your counselor anytime. BetterHelp is not self-help. It is professional counseling where everything you share is confidential. And guys, I want you to start living a happier life today. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor at betterhelp.com/ORD. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ORD. Okay, folks, that will do it for this one. Thank you so much to the woman who sent this in for making another episode possible, and for being a longtime listener, it sounds like. Really hoping this helps you and that you'll all share this episode if you feel it could help someone else. And if you've got a question of your own you'd like my help with, please email it to me at advice@oldpodcast.com. Love hearing from all of you, and it is highly encouraged. So with that, my friends, I'm wishing you a great rest of your Saturday if you're listening in real time. Have a fun day, and be sure to check back in tomorrow, where we will get back to narrating and where your optimal life awaits.